Hey, everybody, you are tuned in for another Black History Chat with the Harambee Learning and Culture Center. All month long, we have been talking about the historical aspects of Black History Month. We talked about Lift Every Voice and Sing. And now we want to conclude this month with talking about Black mental wellness in our community. So many things have happened. So many things are going on. We will not let this be silent. This is something that needs to be talked about, and we're going to keep promoting it. So with me, I have two amazing guests, and I just was telling them backstage, like, I always love having you two on because you know your stuff. You're passionate about Black mental wellness. So I can't wait until we get into this conversation. We have my home girl, my sister girl, Jermai. We went to school together. We went to high school together. We went to get our master's in the same program. So the connection is there. She's an amazing clinician. I'm going to introduce both, and then I'll have you just talk about, who you are and what you have. And then next we have Khalid, who's in Chicago. Woo, woo, woo. Thank God for technology that allows us all to connect. He's an amazing clinician, booked and busy, both of them. So, Jermai, please just let us know who you are, what you have going on, and then we'll just get right into our conversation.
I'm never good at this part, but hey, everyone. Like Stephanie said, I am definitely passionate about the mental health field, definitely passionate, obviously, about the culture. So I do a little bit of a lot of things. I am a counselor or a therapist. And I am a transition life coach. Recently, that's a new thing. I am a case manager at a shelter for teen moms. So I do a lot of things. I'm a minister at a church, a youth leader, mentor, friend, homie. I do a lot of things. But all of it is really just ministry that I have been graced to do. And I am just, I'm here for it, here for the work.
Awesome. Here for the work. I mean, speaking of the ministry, that's something that Khalid always says. So please share with everyone listening who you are, what you have going on, and things like that.
All right. Well, Stephanie or Lilac, thank you again for inviting me to another forum where we get to discuss us by us, because it's very important.
Yeah.
And this is a very, very, very crucial, prolific, and important topic, Black mental health. And I'm glad I'm seeing this happen in this day and age, because when I've been practicing for 28 years. So I imagine the climate almost 30 years ago compared to what it is now. And we're still in the middle of a pandemic, a medical pandemic and a racial pandemic, right? And how it's controlling our minds and our spirits and how we do out here in the world. Again, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. By day, I work at the VA hospital with the veterans, and I'm a veteran myself. In the evenings, I work with DCFS foster children, providing in-home therapy. And then I have a private practice, International High Achievers. And I'm just, again, my ministry is to help my folks live better lives.
Yeah.
So let's go with it.
Let's go with it. This is a ministry. One of the first conversations that you and I had, Khalid, was about this being the ministry of therapy, of counseling, and doing all that. You really have to be called here. I'll say that until I go into the grave. You have got to be called to counseling. You got to be called to therapy. This is not something you do just to get fame and glory. No, you have to be called here. Your heart has to be in it. Your soul has to agree with this. If not, you know what I mean? We could lose ourselves where if we're not anchored in something. So I love that. And I love that you brought up that you've been in this field for 28 years. So we see Black history, right, in the context of maybe Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, and things like that. But I think the Black mental health history is excluded, that we don't really talk too much about that. The climate. So that's what I'd like you to discuss, just how we open up. What was that climate 28 years ago? I mean, I know it was like pulling teeth or pulling a donkey, you know what I mean? Trying to get people to accept that, especially in our community. So please shed a little light on what that looked like, and then just see it transition now where it's so openly talked about.
Right. So I remember coming into social work. I was a 23-year-old right out of college. And thank God, my godmom was a program director at a social service agency. And she said, Godson, I'll set you up with the interview, but you got to sell yourself to get in, right? So I said, no problem. This is my passion, because I knew why I wanted to be a social worker. I wanted to help. And at that time, I wanted to help children, and especially young Black boys, right? So I remember my first client being an African-American teenager who was molested by his stepdad, right? So imagine, I'm 23 years old. I had never, ever heard of a boy being molested. This is in the early 90s. You know, I knew of girls being molested, but not boys.
Right.
This is my first client. And remember, I'm not seasoned. This is new to me. And I remember reading his social history, and it was like a nightmare reading that. And I remember I went home sad, but I knew I had to help that kid as soon as I met him. I knew I had to meet and what happened was he disintegrated. Even though he had a group of counselors working with him, that trauma did something to him. Excuse me. Maybe I'm getting choked up thinking about it. Excuse me. But what I remember was he started acting out in his foster home. So he started to touch his little cousins inappropriately. And so what happened was, so then I learned that typically victims start victimizing. Yep. Again, I didn't know this, right? And we eventually had to put him in a group home. Well, about 6 months later, he ran away from the group home, and no one knows what happened to him thereafter, right? That was my first case. So imagine what that did to me, a 23, 24-year-old. And I said, after him, I will never lose another client. 28 and a half years later, I'm still here. But see, that was on purpose. God did that to me on purpose. Because he said, Khalid, I'm going to hit you, and I'm going to hit you in the gut with it. So you understand how valuable and necessary this work was. And I haven't regretted a day being in this field. And of course, everything back then was especially services for men. Absolutely not. You know, men, our therapy is buffalo wings, breasts, and beer. That's our therapy. But now we've gotten a little bit full circle. And with this pandemic, we understood that, no, that's not going to take care of it. Talking to my boy ain't going to help me out. Talking to the preacher man ain't going to help me out. Talking to my mama ain't going to help me out. This is broken. And what we're realizing is if this is broken, everything else follows. Right? This can't be unhealthy and you think the rest is going to be healthy. It's not. So now we're coming full circle and we got men. Most of my clients at my private practice are Black men. That would have been unheard of just 3 years ago. Now, us clinicians in private practice, we are booked solid. Ask anybody who does private practice now. And it's with people of color because we understand we got to fix this. Our communities are suffering.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a great work that has to be done, you know, because it's like now we're awakened. Now we're allowing ourselves to feel our feelings after not for so many years, right? We were told, you know, not to feel your feelings and right to shh, don't say anything. Or in the church, Jesus will fix it. And that's that. And, you know, it's like, hold on a minute. We're human. So we've been trained not to be human. And now that we're feeling our feelings, now we can't regulate them because it's like, wait, this is something I've never experienced before. And this is why we feel this happening. You know, just speaking of, I mean, I feel like I'm a stigma destroyer, especially with mental wellness, and I know you two are too. So Jermai, just share a little bit. I mean, you can even touch on that church aspect where that stigma, I wouldn't say it's all the way gone, but it has been reduced. But can you just talk about that stigma of mental wellness, especially in the community, and if you want to tie in how that looks in the church too, please?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, you know, growing up, I think we are not we're not aware of how toxic some of the narratives that we have and some of the messages that we are either forced on or we inherit, right? So, you know, when you hear what happens in this house stays in this house, it's like, well, yeah, that makes sense because I'm not trying to ruin the home. But then what that does is that conditions us to hide the pain and to silence the pain. And then we just go about our lives trying to figure out how, as emotional beings, how do I express that without coming off weak or without coming off like I'm ruining my entire family because there's a secret that I'm not supposed to say. But the secret is like literally toxifying my entire life, the relationships that I have, who I can. And I think we become numb and we become sensitive to these things until someone sheds the light and says, that's not okay. And then once we hear that, and it's like, well, dang, I've been doing this for 15 years. What do I do now? I wasn't raised in the church, but I've been saved since I was 12. And I think, like you were saying, that Jesus will fix it, and all you need is Jesus. And you know, oh, that's a demon or that's a spirit, and you just gotta rush that spirit out and pray that spirit out. And it's like, okay, that's a theory. I like to say, like, that's a point. But you know, I always like to look at when we come into the acknowledgement of ourselves in Christ, right? There's a lot of things that we have to die to, right? That's a church term that says like we have to submit our flesh to the spirit. And that's not an easy task, right? And there are people who have the testimony of, I was a drug dealer, I was a prostitute, I was, you know, a drug user. And now that I'm in Christ, I have to relearn all of life in a new way. How do I do that? You know, just with Jesus. I'm not saying that Jesus isn't enough because he is always more than enough. Okay. But sometimes we need people who God has skilled, God has grace for the work to say, like, let me walk you through this. And I'm not just going to walk you through this blindly. You know, I heard someone say the other day, like, as a leader, as someone who has the weight on their shoulders, you can't lead people to places you haven't been. So when we are coming to saved counselors or life coaches or therapists, they understand the work. They understand that I need Jesus every single day. From the moment my eyes open to the moment I am resting, I need Jesus. And even then, the enemy's attack doesn't stop because I'm sleeping. Like, he's still going. I understand my need for Christ, but I also understand that God uses people. And if there are people who are of the kingdom and who are trying to help you walk and understand life and to understand who you are as a person in God, but also how to navigate this, you know, wicked world, you know, why not utilize them? You know, that's like saying like, oh my goodness, I have this open contusion, but I'm not going to go to the doctor because Jesus is my doctor and he's going to heal it. Like, yes, he could. However, you know, we're not called to be foolish, right? So we also have to take that godly wisdom that he has given us and say, I need help. I don't know what this thing called life is. I don't know how to live renewed all the time, you know, because the Bible talks about, you know, transforming your mind and being renewed. The transformation has to happen mentally. So why not go to a mental doctor to get that work done? It's just like vitally important, you know?
Yeah, it is. I mean, right. If we go to the dentist, if we go to the podiatrist, you know, we go to get everything else checked. Well, there's all these specialist doctors. I mean, the mind doctors or the mind specialists should be also, you know, contacted where it's like, we're making sure we're well all around. Sometimes we don't realize, you know, that the things that we've heard in our past, those things are still binding us up, holding us back, and not allowing us to like experience the tools of freedom that we've been given, you know? So I'm just like, come on, now is the time. So we're coming out of this pandemic. Well, we're still in a pandemic because we're not coming out of it right now. We're in it now. Let's just be honest, right? I don't think we're in as worse of a position or whatever the media is telling us. That's what we know, right? So we could be and we might not know. But we're still in this thing. And we are seeing that a lot more emotions and feelings are coming up. Again, like I mentioned before, that we've never allowed ourselves to really dive into or feel. What suggestions or tips are we giving people who are finding themselves feeling their emotions that they buried for so long, and now they're trying to navigate through that? What are we trying to let them know, and how are we assisting them with coping? I mean, because I think these are the conversations that need to be had. We know we as Black people, we're very, expressive, and we clap loud and we laugh loud, we sing loud. We're just a loud people. You know what I mean? We like showing our emotions and feelings to a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
That vulnerability, though, that's something that we're still having to work towards, because we're not allowing people to see that we have flaws and we have things going on. And all the time, my emotions are not maybe on the same level. And how do I get them regulated and even? So what are we telling people? I'll send this right over to you, Khalid. What are we telling people, and how are we assisting them when they're feeling these emotions they've never felt these before, because we never let ourselves feel?
Right. We know, or every clinician should know, that you always start out by validation, right? That's the number one way that you open up with someone, especially who's feeling vulnerable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because validating says, you're right. You are absolutely right. Whatever you're feeling, you are absolutely right. And you have absolutely every right to feel that you are telling your truth in your moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I start off by letting folks know, like, for instance, when I meet with married couples, right? And typically the scenario is the wife calls me, Mr. Scott or Dr. Scott, me and my husband are going through some marital issues, right? And we need therapy, or I'm going to get a divorce. So what I tell the wives on that phone call, have your husband call me as well, because I want to make sure he wants to do counseling as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's just you and you're emotionally blackmailing him, it ain't gonna work.
Right.
He has to be on board just like you are.
That's
right?
so good.
Okay. So then the husband calls me, and of course I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get him because he's like, man, another brother, a man, right? So they kind of think I'm gonna be a little biased because I'm another dude, right?
Right.
But then we do that first session, and I'm saying I'm totally unbiased. I don't take any side but the right side.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell them, starting the first session, there's no villains and there's no victims. You're two heroes who just had a bad day, a bad situation. Because if you start off on the positive, you have nowhere else to go but positive. You start off playing the blame game, making people feel bad about what they've done, you've lost them on that first session, right? And so I'll tell the wife, so say if it's about infidelity, I'll tell the wife, well, you had a part in it too. So the wives are clutching their pearls like, what? What are you talking about? I didn't want my husband to go out and be with that trick out in the street. I said, well, we're going to find out, because we're going to get him to open up and tell us why he felt the need to go and meet with Tamika out there in the streets. Okay? Because it may be you. It may be. Or even if you're not the reason why he went out, you let him back in. And this is the fifth woman he's been with. So, sister, tell me where your esteem is at. I don't know if I could take somebody back after being with 5 other human beings. Nope. I don't know if I could do that. So by doing that, making these statements, I let them know we all play a part. We all need some fixing up in this room. So I say all that to say, you let people know it's okay that you're human. Because when you realize you're human, you understand that you are flawed and that you're going to make errors. And a lot of those errors come from belief systems, how you were raised, a summation of all your experiences. I've had husbands telling me, Mr. Scott, whoa, everybody in my family cheated. My dad, I got outside siblings, my uncles, my granddaddies, the neighbor down the street, up the street, next door to me. All I saw was infidelity. So I thought that's what men do. Now we got to break these curses.
Yeah.
Now we got to break these curses. So this is the clinician Bible right here.
That's it.
It's the clinician Bible, and I have been opening this book up a whole lot lately. Look.
Word stays with me.
Come on. I never thought I was gonna have to. I thought I opened this up when I was studying for my license.
No, sir.
This is my favorite book right now. You know, because we're trying to understand what's going on with people, and because now it's at 100 miles per hour now. You know, I have 15 clients, right? I have a waiting list now of 32 clients.
Wow.
And then the clients I got, I'm like, well, let's start talking about transition. Nope. Mr. Scott, I will cut you. You're not needing me. I need you as my therapist. No.
Right.
Okay, let's do therapy then. Clearly you're not well.
Right.
So that's it. Validate these people's feelings and tell them that they're going to make it through. Kick in that faith and that hope that the church taught you. But now you got to really apply it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Jermaine, just jump right on in.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, was that the silent pause for me to just like
that was. I'm like, I don't really have too much else to say. You have to get what people are saying. I don't have anything else to say after that. You might want to go ahead.
I mean, to piggyback off of, what Khalid was saying, I think creating a safe space where they feel like it's okay to emote and to be and to feel. I think every message that a lot of us brown and black people get is it's not okay. Right? Like you're supposed to be strong, which means you don't show all of these emotions, you suck it up and you move. And so we are literally conditioned to be like shells of people because we're told to ignore what is happening on the inside. And I don't feel safe. Like if I am a black female, I don't feel safe being angry because now I look like I'm bon qui and I'm an angry black chick. And it's like, or I had a bad day like everybody else. And I'm allowed to be upset. I'm allowed to feel frustrated. I'm allowed to get loud, even if I have to. But because of the color of my skin, I don't feel safe emoting that because of the stigmas that's attached to it. Or as men, they hold on so much and, they carry all this weight in their backs and in their stomachs and in their shoulders. And they're like, you know what? Maybe I do just need to cry because exerting this energy and this frustration through working out and stuff, it's not enough. You know what I mean? Like I have to allow the emotion and express the emotion that I'm feeling. It doesn't have to always turn to anger, but they don't do that if there's not a space created for them where it's like, not only are you okay to emote, you're okay to be. It is okay to be 100% you with every single emotion that you feel and know you're not crazy for feeling it. I think that crazy stigma is why we don't, as a culture, as a community, why we don't ask for help. Because again, asking for help is a form of weakness. You're supposed to have it figured out. You're a man. What do you mean? Or you're a woman, do you know how many women back in the day had to figure it out and carry their family on their back? I said, what? Okay. I'm a millennial. We didn't have to do all that like hard struggle. We still had the struggle, but we didn't have all of that. So I don't know what that means. You know what I mean? And I think we have to allow them to say, it's okay. Let's make sense of what these emotions are. I was taking a training about emotional intelligence. And one of the first things they said was, let's break down what an emotion is. An emotion is first a thought. Then your body reacts and then you emote it. That's what an emotion is. So again, it all reverts back to our mind and what are we thinking about? How do we view ourselves in this world? And that's probably why we don't emote or we overly emote. You know what I mean? It's like we have to be comfortable within our bodies and allow our bodies to say like, I feel this and that is okay. I am safe to be this. I am safe to be sad or depressed or angry. There has to be safety and security. That's the mind's job, is to keep us safe and to keep us secure. And if your mind isn't doing that, I have to surround myself in a community or in a space with a tribe, however you want to call it, that allows me to be me. There's nothing more comforting to, if you ask me, there's nothing more comforting to a community that has been marginalized and has been beat upon and has been told, you're not even human, you're a piece of property. Nothing, I feel like, is more healing than to say, like, actually you matter. Your life matters, your heart matters. You're more than just what you do for people. You matter just because for the sake that you were born and you are alive and you have a purpose, you have a destiny, there's hope, there's joy, there's love inside of you. And that's what we have to get to. Peel back the layers. I heard this thing that said, you peel back an onion, you get nothing. You peel back an artichoke, you get to the heart. I think we're often looking at ourselves like we're the onion, like, well, if you take away what I do, if you take away the money that I have, I'm nothing. It's like, actually, there's a heart, there's a soul there, and that's what we need to get to. And a lot of people aren't in the soul work, right? They're not in the business of empowering a soul, finding out what the soul is, because that soul was given to you by God. The creator is the reason why we even exist. So let's figure out why we exist. Let's figure out, who our tribes are, and let's get each other to the places that God would want us to be.
Yeah, I mean, you both brought up two dynamic things. I mean, first of all, validating the feelings. I've been in spaces and places in a session or just talking amongst people, and they start crying and we apologize. Oh, I'm sorry for crying. I'm like, what are you apologizing for? You're a human being. You're not weak for crying. You know what I mean? So I think validating that every feeling is okay. We don't have to try to stuff our feelings because they always pop up. I'm always saying that jealous lovers are just like feelings that we abandon. Our feelings will pop up when we don't want them to, just like a jealous lover. They'll be coming out of the bush and we'll be different places and spaces, and those feelings that we neglected and didn't give quality time to, they'll be popping up. So it's like we have to feel our feelings, and then providing the space to be vulnerable so people can know I am and I can just be. I don't have to put on airs or pretend or put on a mask or facade. I think creating that safe space by saying, you know what, this is a no judgment zone. Whatever you need to share, you can. And sometimes we might feel that we have to try to fix people, or like when they give a problem, we have to be problem solvers all the time. Not necessarily. Our presence can be enough for them, or just being just that listening ear. Yeah. That's the beauty of therapy and being in counseling. You can literally sit there and be like, okay, all right. We're not there to give you advice. If it comes up, yes, we can give our opinion, absolutely. But we know the gift of you just being able to share, and then you said, oh, I feel so much better because all that stuff is building up. What have we taken on as a Black race in this country alone? Forget about in other spaces in the world for a moment. Here in America, what trauma have we taken on? What emotions are we still wearing from our grandparents, from all the people in our past that passed all that stuff down? I'm like, it's time for us to unload and unbuckle, and get rid of that. I do want to discuss what it looks like for us as a people who might have let the words and actions of others seep into us, right? So if we're called an animal, if we're not seen as a human being, people will, comment on our features, big noses, big lips, and associate them with different things. I mean, maybe some of what we're going through is because we have allowed that to seep into our own thoughts and processes. So how do we even navigate that, where we are seeing so much Black excellence and Black is beautiful and all that? How do we navigate that so we know, that we are worthy of this healing and that we don't have to take on or adopt the other opinions and thoughts of others?
Well, my honest opinion is, ladies, we have 500 years of unbrainwashing and detoxing to go through. And let that settle in your spirit real quick. I didn't say 5 months. I didn't say 5 years. I didn't say 50 months. I said 500 years of being told you're worthless, that you're not beautiful, that you're not worthy, that you're dirt, that you're an animal, that you're less than. Okay. It's a known fact if you tell a baby from age 0 to 3 that they're dumb, they will believe they're dumb. And they will do everything to prove that they are. So you tell a whole race of people who you have abused and beat down and battered and bruised that you're nothing. How you think those people are going to act? How you think those people are going to think? And then you have this contradiction. So let me start with black men. Do a test with you. When you think of the race, and me and you discussed this, Steph, when you think of the race of the most wealthiest men, probably the first race that's going to come to your mind is white men. When you think of the race that's more family oriented, you're going to probably think Hispanic men. You think of the race of men who are brilliant, academically, you're going to probably think of Asians. But when you think of the men who are built naturally, athletic, and have this deep sexual prowessness, you're going to think of who? Brothers, right? And see, that was on purpose. Think about in slavery, you had a 6'2" black man, 240 pounds. Master wanted to replicate him because why? He's the best slave on the plantation, right? So I want more of him and more of him. So I have this slave sleep with my 60 girl slaves, and I want him to get each one of them pregnant, right? So then as a man, when it comes to sex, I don't look for sex for emotion. I don't look for the mental satisfaction. Having sex is like I'm a factory worker. Because I have to produce what? The commodity, which is what? Human beings.
Right.
So that's black men's introduction, right? And so then centuries later, think about how many men in your family have multiple kids by multiple women. My granddaddy had 5 kids outside the marriage, by 4 different women, right? So we're still carrying the coat of dysfunction. And the minute we try to take it off, they say, no. We need you to keep that coat on. So you turn on TV and you seeing a black man or a black boy being choked to death, being shot down like an animal. What do you think that's going to do to the psyche? Right? Right? Then our women and what you all had to deal with the rapes and then having your children snatched out of your arms and sold and you never see your child again. Ladies, isn't it amazing that we all 3 might be cousins and don't know it? Because when they sold us off, they didn't keep a diary of who went where and why. They sold us off. We all 3 might be cousins. Right? We're the only race that has to deal with that. So how can we not be damaged? How can we not be traumatized? And then you say, well, get over it. We let Beyonce and Jay-Z and Kanye and Rihanna be billionaires and Oprah and Tyler and P. Diddy. We're advanced. We let y'all have a half black president. You know what I'm saying? And a half black vice president. What are you whining about? You won't even consider giving us reparations.
Right.
Whoopi Goldberg made a mistake and said that the Holocaust wasn't about race. It took off TV for 2 weeks. And she has a Jewish last name that she chose to have. Her real name is Karen Johnson. So she has a high regard for Jewish people. But the minute she spoke out of place, and she apologized immediately. So guys, how can we? Miss USA jumped off the 30th floor less than a month ago. And she is what we would think would be the world's image of beauty. But it wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough. She won at 28 years old. So then she got teased like, why are your old self at 28 years old entering a beauty pageant? It couldn't just be congratulations. So this beautiful woman at age 30, beautiful, accomplished, a law degree and an MBA, jumps off a roof. And now we're hearing she had half functioning depression, which is not, it is not in here.
It's not.
It's not in here. And I have to tell people that it's just you're depressed, but you learn how to mask it.
Right.
And that's what we have to do as Black folks all the time. We got to deal with microaggressions and mask it. And like, okay. So guys, we're going to have our great grandchildren are going to be having this discussion because it took 500 years to get to this. Take that in.
That's real. I mean, that's real. You know, I mean, we've made progress, but it is going to take a lot more work just because of what we're fighting against. I mean, I'm like, what we have to undo. It's like so many buckles, so many locks having to open, and then not even talking about the resistance to it. Like, I'm not crazy, or there's nothing wrong with me, or I don't trust that. I don't know what that is. I mean, most of my clients, like in my personal business, are women over 50 who are in the church because they recognize that they were dying on the inside, but they were serving in church. Oh, you could count on them to be there, to bake, to cook, to clean, to lead things, but they were dying on the inside because there was this level of, I have to put on this facade, this mask. I have to eat this. You know, someone's offending me or someone's talking about me. I don't even feel comfortable enough to speak up about what's going on. I think that's the other thing too. I mean, finding our voice in all of this, like we have the right to say something if something's not going right, or if we need to call out certain things, we have the authority to say, hey, that wasn't cool. You know, even in the workplace, I mean, people will try to like touch your hair and say, hey girl. And I'm like, what? Like, I've never heard you say this phrase before, but with me, oh girl, I'm like, no, you don't have to do that. No, you don't need to do that. Like, you know, so that's what we have to deal with. I mean, and the microaggressions alone is a whole different episode because navigating through that, and you know, and then we get, I guess, called like angry and upset. If we really let our anger be shown, it would be a whole different story. If we didn't just take and have to take and sit and say, oh, God, help me. Because they just said this phrase again. I asked them not to say it. I let them know. I gave them the historical context. I provided them with 3 articles explaining why this is not appropriate. And here they are doing it again. How do we hold our emotions in that? You know, because we are in a different generation. Where it's like, I don't say that to be disrespectful. We're not our ancestors. I mean, we're not. There's more liberties that are given to us. We respect them. We appreciate them. There's more liberties given to us. And there's just certain things that we're not going to tolerate. You know what I mean? We can see that all on the news. We see Karens and Kens getting knocked down, beat up, uppercutted, right hook, left hook. You know, it's all recorded because we're done and we've reached our breaking point. You know, Khalid, you brought up the suicide, and I definitely want to shift and navigate the conversation in that direction because we've seen the uptick in it, especially in our community. I won't say that's not something we dealt with, but so openly, that's not something that our community has dealt with. You know what I mean? Other communities and cultures, sure, we have not really dealt with that openly. So, Jermai, I'm going to slide this over to you. What do you think about this suicidal ideation climate? And then we're going to start talking about what do we do when someone is kind of showing or displaying some of those things that might indicate that they're leading down that road.
I believe we have to first understand what a suicide ideation is. Like, there's a difference between having the ideation and being suicidal, right? Being suicidal is just like, I don't really know what this thing called life is. So, you know, they automatically assume to not want to live means I automatically want to die. That's not true. There's just some people who just don't know what life is about, right? Having the ideation is I'm developing a plan. I am thinking about more than one way where I can off myself. That's what they say, right? One way to end this. Men are more lethal than women are. So men are running in front of ongoing traffic. Men are taking guns. Men are, hanging themselves. Like, men are doing the lethal stuff. Women were like, how about I slit my wrist? Either I'm going down the street or I'm going across the street, but I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to pop some pills. I'm going to drink this thing away. Either way, I'm developing a plan. I am giving thought behind how I'm going to end my existence, right? I think it's more than just being sad. It's more than just, I just don't like life. It's saying like, you have to listen for the words that make it sound like they have no value. Their worth is gone. They don't feel, they don't understand the meaning of life. They don't understand why they need to live. And in our community, we have to pay attention to more than just words, because not a lot of us have the words for what we're feeling. We're still trying to figure it out. So it's in their actions. Are you sleeping for 3 days? Are you disengaging from social interactions? Are you purposely isolating yourself? Are you not eating, or are you overly eating? That's the hard part about depression and suicide ideation, is it could look different, but there are like specific signs that you can look for. So like I said, like the isolation. I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to look at anyone. I'm not watching TV. I'm sitting in the dark, because in my mind, I'm really thinking about like, how can I end this? Because there is no life in me. Are they moping their head? Are they dragging their heads? Are they looking down? Are they putting up a smiley face like, oh yeah, everything's fine, but like their life isn't matching those words? You know what I mean? Like, we have to look for all of these signs. And I think, like we have been saying for the beginning part of this message, podcast, whatever you want to call it, is that, like we're having to undo 500 years of being told you're not good enough. This breadcrumbing that has been happening to us. The breadcrumbing, I mean, it's a clinical term that happens most of the time in domestic violence, but basically it's like, I'm gonna give you enough for you to be satisfied and for you to keep coming back. You know what I mean? So, social media showing us like, Black people can do it too. Black people can have businesses and have multi-millions and drive the cars, but that's not enough, right? It's not in the fame. It's not in the money, because we're still being marginalized, even in these wealthy places and in these rooms that we're walking into. That glass ceiling effect, it still exists. We will only be allowed to achieve what they want us to achieve. And by they, you can either put the white man on it, but it's bigger than the white man. There's a whole system that is created to keeping us here. Like, yeah, you can have this, that little breadcrumbing thing. You can have this, but just know your counterparts are way up here. So we can be millionaires, but we won't be allowed to be billionaires, because now, even in our own community, like everyone looks at Oprah like, hold on, you can give away cars. Why can't you take away my child's college loan debt? Why are we putting that on Oprah? You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Even in our own community, we have taken on what they have pushed on us, right? All of these isms. Now there's colorism, there's genderism, there's all of these isms that exist where we can't even let our own people be great, because we are conditioned to be that crabs in the barrel thing where hey, listen, we in here together. We started the same place, so there is no way I'm gonna let you get above me. It's like, first of all, a win for the culture is a win, right? It is. If Stephanie wanted to go on and be this amazing person, I might be like, hey, shout me out in one of your books, just give me a little line. I'll be good. Why? Because like her success is a success for the culture. You know what I mean? That's one more person that is speaking from our experience. That's one more person who's able to reach, the masses that are feeling like there is no representation. but it's because we don't have that representation that we feel like, what's the point of living? What's the point of going forward when all I see in the media is that we're getting killed? So clearly, if they don't value my life, why should I value my own? And we are products of what we eat, right? We're eating through what we're watching. We're eating through what we're listening to. We're eating through the conversations that we are having, right? The Bible talks about the ear gate, the eye gate, all of those things. All of these messages are contributing to us feeling like I am less than and I'm not worthy of, right? Like going back to the slavery times, like if a female is only good for, you know, picking the cotton and making all these babies and breastfeeding babies that aren't mine. So now I am told all I am is my body. My soul doesn't matter. My emotions don't matter. My heart doesn't matter. I'm supposed to be this. That's not a life. We have drastically taking away the value of life because of the things and the messages that we are receiving. And that's why suicide, I believe, is doubling and tripling. And because we don't have those healthy outlets, because there is no representation, because we don't have enough advocacy and understanding of what our struggle is, you know, like everyone said, we're told, like, yo, suck it up. Like you guys are doing fine. At least you're not in chains. And it's like, I may not be physically bound, but do you not understand how mental bondage that you have created for years and years? I always share this. I'm talking a lot, but I'm just saying, I always share this, this analogy that the African elephant is one of the strongest the strongest animals out there. And from the moment of birth, the master takes a elephant and ties one of its legs to this pole. And then for months on end, it's trying to fight against the pole, and that rope pain is rubbing against his foot, and then he just gives up. And at one point, the master comes and takes the rope, and it's no longer bound, but that elephant won't move because the reminder of the pain keeps it bound to that spot that it is in.
Boom.
And a lot of us are like that elephant where we can be freed. We can have all of these things that are available to us, but we won't move because the reminder of the struggle is big enough for us to be like, I'm not going to move. I'm not even going to try because I hurt myself trying to be free. I hurt myself trying to get to the places that I felt like I was worthy of, but I can't get there because the pain is reminder enough to stay. So we have to really, you know, empower our own community and really remind ourselves that our lives are still valuable. You know, the whole Black Lives Matter movement was literally trying to say your Black life matters. But it's more than just I matter because of what I provide my community. I matter just because I am. And that's the message that is missing.
Right. Wow.
Absolutely. No, go right ahead.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, I'm just like, I don't know. My mind is blown because this is the stuff that we need to hear. I mean, that elephant analogy, I'm like, what? You know, and how many people even listening are you identifying with that we are physically free, but mentally the chains are still there and we're still bound up and we're still not able to be free and go forth with what we need to do. And then I'm thinking about, how we see ourselves. And our society has told us what to be and told us what to do and told us we're only good for sports or entertainment or, you know, like what? We're so much more than that, you know, and when we're able to be mentally free and mentally whole and mentally well, then we can really, you know, see our identity. And that helps to kind of eradicate or remove some of that like self-worth. Like, you know, I'm not worth anything. I'm not supposed to be here. What am I here for? I mean, Khalid, it seemed like every other week you were sending me something like about suicide, you know? I'm like, what? No, like, what's going on? You know, like, what happened? You know, I don't understand. And, you know, it started with Miss USA, and I remember just feeling this immense sadness. I didn't know her for real, but I'm like, you know, just judging from the outside, she's beautiful. I mean, beyond beautiful. But inside, what was going on? And then I guess I started asking, who was the tribe around her?
Yeah.
Who was the tribe around her that could not see their homie, their friend, their girl deteriorating,
Right.
who could not tell that because she didn't just get like this. You don't just wake up and say, oh, it's a pattern, it's a process. It's an idea that takes root and then it blooms and the forest just keeps getting bigger and bigger until you decide to act on it.
Mhm.
Where were they?
Mhm.
Khalid, can you speak to that, to the tribe, and what the necessity of us having people around us who are paying attention and being aware? Because that can really help with this suicide pandemic, because that's what it's becoming now.
Yep.
That can really help with the suicide pandemic as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. On August 5th, 2002, I had my daughter's baby shower. Okay. And what made my baby shower different was my birthday was on July 16th. So it was like 3 weeks prior, before the baby shower. And I came up with an idea. I said, you know what? Typically baby showers are attended by who? Women, right? And I said, no, this is a celebration. God blessed me with 11 God kids. And now I'm finally about to have my own kid. So this is going to be a celebration. All that money I spent on other people's babies and weddings and housewarming parties, come on, you got to give it back up. So I said, I want a co-ed baby shower, right? And then I said, I got to take it up another notch because I got this thing. You know how Black people always go back and start retrospecting that. I remember I came from a neighborhood where Miss Johnson, if she heard me acting crazy, she would whoop me, and then she would tell my mama, and my mama would whoop me. Then my daddy gonna whoop me, and granny gonna whoop me because I embarrassed him in front of Miss Johnson. Mm-hmm. So I said, that's what I want for my kid. I want her wrapped around a village. So I invited 300 people to come to the baby shower. 242 showed up. Men and women. And then towards the end of the baby shower, I had a ceremony, right? And I said, you all will be Anaya's aunties and uncles. Because there's something about if a kid look up to you and say, hey, Auntie Stephanie, hey, Auntie Jermai, you gonna feel a kinship. Instead of them like, hey, Stephanie, hey, wait, you ain't that familiar. I'm a grown up, you a kid. Right. But it's something that they put auntie or uncle in front of it, where you like, oh man, where my wallet at now? And it worked. Fast forward, my daughter was in high school. She went to Kenwood, and it's a neighborhood in Chicago. Every day when she went out to lunch, she would see somebody I knew. Anaya is Auntie Beth. It's Uncle John. And so she got used to it, right? And I said, Anaya, let me explain the premise behind that. Say if God took me home, right? I want to know there's a tribe of uncles who will wrap man love around you. I want to know that you have a tribe of aunties who will look out for your soul. Because we keep saying we want that back, but the minute we try to go towards it, I don't want nobody in my business. So think about if Miss USA, think about Regina King's son. Think about the Miss Alabama who just committed suicide. Think about if all these people knew it was one person. I ain't saying a whole tribe, just one person. I'm going through it, homie. I'm going through it. Get over here. So we got to get back to the village. We got to get back to, we got to look out for each other.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Instead of using social media to beat and bully, we need to, like, I don't know. I've never met Stephanie one day of my life, but look what the social media brought together. I got a sister right now. You part of the sisterhood now, Jermai. You know what I'm saying? Because it's so if social media is used right, it's very functional, very positive.
Yeah.
Let's get back to our roots, because that's how we survived 500 years of abuse, because we looked out for each other.
Right.
We got to make these numbers come down to the highest number of suicides are now amongst Black men.
Mm-hmm.
So our kings and princesses are putting a gun up to their head.
Mm-hmm.
Stephanie, you know, I told you between Thanksgiving and Christmas, 7 Black men called me thinking about suicide. 7 Black men. Thank God, Jermai, that they called me instead of doing it.
Yeah.
And majority of them, they just knew me from social media, and they inboxed me. Can I give you a call? One guy had a gun in his passenger seat when he called me at 1 o'clock in the morning. What if I didn't wake up? Or what if I'm like, who in the heck?
Yeah.
And I talked him to go to the emergency room and get checked in. Come to find out he had major depressive disorder, and anxiety. But he had the gun right next to him. And he said the reason, and all 7 men said the reason why they were contemplating suicide was because of their wives.
Wow.
So the place where you supposed to come and get peace,
you
don't even have, it's a war zone in your house.
Wow.
And y'all know how men think about our houses. It's supposed to be our kingdom.
Right.
I'm supposed to get peace when I can't get peace out in the streets.
Right.
And if it's not peace in my own home, then what kind of life I got? And I told all 7 of them, you can divorce misaggravation. You can divorce mistress. You can divorce Mrs. Get on my damn nerves. But what about your babies?
Mm-hmm.
You mean to tell me you're going to leave your daughter and wonder, is that what manhood looks like when it gets rough? You kill yourself? What are you going to teach your sons? You're their first hero of their life. So when things get rough, I jump off a roof. So guys, that's what I'm saying. All of this is a culmination. We start doing the right things out here, we'll get better and positive results. And it took a pandemic to sit our butts down to say, whoa, Stephanie's my wife. I don't like you, wife. Now, I played it off because I went to work, you went to work. I went to the gym, you went to get your nails done. I hung out at Hooters because what I tell you men's therapy was? Breasts, buffalo wings, and beer. But I can't go to
all 3 right there.
I can't go to Hooters. So now I got to sit home with you all day, Stephanie. And I hate that you always leave your hair in the sink. It used to bother me just a bit, but now that I'm here every day, 7 days a week, and like when you let that toilet seat down, damn you. But now, I'm tired of that toilet seat being up. Stop this fool.
Like it's real, it's funny, but it's so true and it's so real.
Yeah.
And this is what we have to do. We have to have these very open and vulnerable conversations, sharing the thoughts that we all have. You know what I mean? The biggest trick I think of our minds that the enemy tries to give to us is put us in isolation and think that no one else is having these thoughts and feelings. So, I can't say anything because nobody else is having this thought. That is a lie. So many people are having these thoughts. It's not the thought that is the problem. How do we manage the thought? And do we let that thought control our emotions?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with the thought. Okay, you can have a thought. Cool. Who are you going to speak to? So we're making sure that thought isn't resulting in something detrimental to you, your family, who you're connected to. I'm like, come on. All this stuff is available. Like that whole scenario is so true. People had to spend time with people that they didn't have to spend time with before.
Yeah.
You know? And we're not even talking about the parents with their kids, how they were praising teachers. Oh, I don't know how you did it, girl. Oh, I don't know how you did it. Because we just didn't have a chance to really be with everybody, but the pandemic made us. Yeah. I'm grateful for it. I always say no disrespect to anyone who lost their life, but I'm grateful for what the pandemic had on the flip side. It made us pause, sit down. We would have never had this explosion of mental health talk without the pandemic.
Right.
No way. We would have
Right.
kept stuffing it or saying it in little pockets,
Mhm.
saying it here, saying it there, but now everyone's talking about it, and this is the time to really get in on it.
Right.
Is that what you're seeing too, Jermaine?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think the problem that we like to I can hide these things. Where are you gonna hide if you're in the same room with the same people looking at the same stuff? Like you can't run. And I think a lot of us get comfortable with running and avoiding and escaping, and you can't do that. And for those who may have loved the people that they're around, you then realize, like, I have to sit with self. And a lot of people are unhappy with self. Right. I had clients who were just like, this therapy stuff, like I actually have to do the work, and I don't like me. Like I work for a company, but then I also have my own counseling business. Right. And, I have a lot of clients who are just like, I don't like me. Like, help me to like me. And I said, self-love is the greatest love that you can have outside of God's love, because you have to be with yourself 24/7.
Right.
You know what I mean? And if you're not happy with yourself, how are you going to offer yourself to anyone else? Right? You don't even know what the good aspects of you are. You don't even know what the flaws that you have to work with. Right? We are so quick to like project outward and to completely avoid self. Because like, if I can point a finger at you and talk about your faults, I don't have to worry about me, right? But then we're just like, I ain't got nobody else to talk about. Just me. I think we have to get back to understanding that, again, we are human beings. We're not always human doers. We are taught to be doers. We are taught to find value in the things that we can give other people. But it's like, are you safe within yourself? Do you love who you are? Not just what you are, but who you are. I ask my clients all the time, well, tell me about yourself. They tell me about their careers, how many kids they got, what relationships they're in. And I said, you told me about external stuff. Therapy is an internal job. I need to know who I'm talking to right here. And they're like, oh, I grew up here. And I said, you're still telling me external stuff. Tell me about what your heart wants. Tell me about your soul. They're like, I don't know. I said, you probably don't, because it's been covered with a whole lot of other stuff. I'm a digger. I let my clients know from the get-go. I dig. I don't mind dirt. I don't mind tears. I don't mind filth. I'm about that life. You know what I'm saying? I was a tomboy growing up, so dirt don't mean nothing to me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm ready to dig. I need you to pull back those layers, because at the end of the day, your heart is what's going to keep you moving. Your heart is going to tell you why you need to live. Your mind and your heart, between those 12 inches that exist, is the most calamity and dysfunction and disconnection in those 12 inches. I need us to be on the same page within those 12 inches, because that's how we function as people. Right? And then we connect ourselves and we have a tribe, we have a community, and then we go out and we live in the Black excellence that we're supposed to. But what you need to understand is, who am I? As a temple, who am I? What does my mind say? What are my thoughts saying? What is my body telling? The mindfulness, Steph's a mindfulness coach. So I have to be mindful of self in order for me to step out confidently into this world. And I have to silence the noise of the external, right? Like I love the story of when Peter was walking on the water, because the storm already existed before he stepped outside the boat. So it wasn't the storm that made him lose focus. It was him actually looking at his condition and saying, like, oh shoot, I'm actually doing this thing. And then he doubted what the miracle was happening. And that's what made him fall. Everyone blames the storm, but the storm existed. That's why they couldn't see him. They didn't know who that was. But it was a faith that allowed him to walk out there. And he had the confidence, like, listen, I am but merely a man. But if that is Jesus and he's with me, I can do the impossible. Right? If we don't understand who we are and who we are in God, we don't believe that we can do, or we don't believe that we are. So it's about connecting ourselves to to God or something outside of self to really say, I can do this thing called life. My life matters. My heart matters. I matter. And that's okay. And I'm going to believe that regardless of what the message is that the world is saying, and regardless of what my upbringing was, I can start over and I can be better, you know, and I'm ready for me, or a 2.0 version of me. I'm ready for it.
I love that. And I think that's such a great place for us to just land this plane. I mean, we've been talking for over an hour, believe it or not. Like, what? This always goes so quick. That was such a perfect place to land, and really just to put a pause, not a stop, because this is a conversation that's going to keep going on and on this platform, on different platforms. But I really appreciate you both for the honesty, for the vulnerability, for the affirming of our people, letting our people know that you matter, and that if you don't have someone who you think cares about you, the three of us do. We might not know you. We might not know your name personally or where you are, but if you're seeing us, we care about you. You have purpose, and you have a reason to be here. So thank you both. I'm so appreciative of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for giving up your time, sharing. Listen, y'all, if I'm going to share the information, in the description. If you want to send some funds over, because they just gave you some free things, look, okay, if you want to send some funds over, you want to bless them, you go right ahead, because what they shared costs money. You know what I mean? So thank you both. Much appreciated. Thank you again, everyone, for tuning in to another one of Harambee Learning and Culture Center's chats. We will be back all year. We're keeping the Kwanzaa